Hello, precious hearts. Today we're going to discuss why the narcissist is so angry. Where does this anger come from? We're also going to find out what the number one mistake is that so many victims make when it comes to the anger of the narcissist. And we're going to discuss the best ways how to handle the narcissist's anger if you're in a situation where leaving at the moment is not an option. Okay, so let's get started. All of us have come to learn that there is a definite connection between anger and narcissists. There's a saying, if you're a hammer, all the world looks like a nail. Well, to a narcissist, a more appropriate saying would be, if you're a narcissist, all the world appears as if it should bow down to you, recognize how amazing you are, agree with everything you say, never find fault with you, revolve around you, and live, breathe, think just for you. That's the thinking of a narcissist. That's literally how they think, okay? So when the world shows that that is not what's true, that is not what's going to happen, the world does not revolve around the narcissist, or there is fault found in the narcissist, that's what can oftentimes provoke their rage. Now, a lot of people think, oh, okay, the narcissist, it's because they have a low self-esteem. Well, their rage isn't really due to a low self-esteem as much as it is to the fact that their soul, who they are as a person, has huge holes in it. They are not a complete person. They are not a normal functioning human being. And when life shows that to be true, it's like an assault to their existence. Think of it as like an animal who's been hurt. You can have the most loving cat, but if it's been hit by a car and it's in a lot of pain and you go to touch it, its automatic defense is going to be to attack. And that sweetest cat under attack can be the most vicious thing there is. Well, it's the same thing with the narcissist, except the narcissist feels like they are always, or their reality is always under attack. And basically it is because their reality is false. So because that reality is always under attack, because they're always being presented with the truth, it provokes this narcissistic rage. So to sum it up, what's at the core of their anger is an inability to sustain that feeling larger than life, that feeling smarter than everyone else, feeling more anything and everything than everyone else, being more successful, more intelligent, more attractive. They need to sustain that in order to feel whole inside. So basically they're setting themselves up for failure because nobody can maintain that forever. There's always going to be someone smarter, more intelligent, more successful, more attractive, always. So their way of maintaining that stability is with their anger. And that's why if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you can never point out anything that they've done that you don't like. Even though you have all the evidence in the world, it will be turned around and shoved against you, and you'll pay for it with their anger just because you were showing them to have made a mistake, to be less than perfect. And they cannot handle that. Okay, so that's where their rage comes from. So narcissistic rage occurs when that core instability is damaged or threatened. And guess what? There is nothing you can do to help them to never feel that way. That's the number one mistake that so many people make when they're in a relationship with a narcissist, is thinking that if they just do this right, if they just say that right, then they will not have to face the narcissistic rage. They somehow think that the narcissistic rage is because of them, is because of you, or is because of me, but it's not. Now, the narcissist would love for you to continue to feeling responsible for that narcissistic rage, because that once again supports their delusion of being perfect and never making a mistake, because here they are raging, acting completely inappropriate, having emotions and actions so far out of proportion from what's really happening. And instead of being able to self-reflect and blame themselves and say there's something wrong with me, the victim often unknowingly takes responsibility, and the narcissist jumps on the bandwagon. They allow you to take that responsibility, and they continue to make you feel as if it's your fault, okay? If there were a perfect human being walking the earth today, not even that perfect human being, would be able to prevent a narcissist from having their narcissistic rage, because the problem doesn't lie with the other person. It's the delusion and the instability that the narcissist is so desperately clinging to maintain. That's what sets them off. So when you learn that, the point of learning it is to stop taking responsibility for actions that are out of your control. And this leads me to the final part of the video, which is what can you do if you're in a situation with a narcissist and you don't have the luxury of being able to leave. Maybe you're a teenager. I get so many emails by teenagers realizing that they have narcissistic parents that it's unbelievable. They're not in a position where they can leave, or they're still living at home for whatever reason, and they don't have the financial means to be able to support themselves yet. That's a difficult situation. Or you're living with a family member or a spouse that is narcissistic, and you haven't found a way to make yourself or to help yourself to be in a position that will protect you and or your children if you have any. If you're stuck in the situation, there are a couple of things that can help you. You'll never be able to stop the narcissist's anger. You can't. But there are things you can do to protect you, okay? The first thing is recognize that it's not your fault. That is hugely important. Stop taking blame and responsibility for the actions of others. The only thing we are responsible for is how we think, how we feel, what we do. We're not responsible for what others do. Whether the narcissist wants to own responsibility or not, that's irrelevant. Even if they don't want to own responsibility, doesn't mean you have to. Okay, so first of all, remind yourself, this is not my fault. Yes, I may have forgotten to do that, but that does not excuse the degree of rage and screaming and insult and criticism that is coming my way. That is disproportionate, and it's wrong, and it's abusive. So recognize it for what it is and stay in reality. Number two, do not try to help the narcissist to see and understand that that's your conclusion. Because the more you try to get them to see your point of view, which is something they refuse to do, because seeing your point of view would force them to have to acknowledge that you are a separate human being, and they don't see you that way. They see you as an extension of themselves. So they're going to fight tooth and nail rather than see something from your point of view. So instead of exhausting yourself trying to get them to see something that they are going to make sure they don't see, recognize that you're allowed to have your point of view even if the other party doesn't agree. Now that's important because the narcissist tends to, with time, make their family members think that they're wrong for having a separate point of view, or for having a different opinion, or for seeing it in a certain way. And so that's what causes people to doubt themselves. Well, maybe maybe I did deserve that, or maybe I shouldn't have done that because, it's my fault they're raging. No, that's what they want you to think. Recognize that your reality is your reality, and you do not have to get the narcissist to agree with it in order for it to be true. I know that sounds simple, but anyone that's been in a relationship with a narcissist long-term knows that for so long you were trying to help the narcissist to see your point of view, and it led to exhaustion and mental and emotional stress, right? Well, now you're realizing that you don't have to get them to see it. You see it, and that's enough for you. Okay, that's 2. 3, the narcissist will try to draw you into a drama battle by asking you questions. Resist the urge to answer them. Say as little as possible. If you have to say anything, keep it to 2 to 3 words, and then just repeat the same thing over and over using the broken record technique without trying to defend yourself in the sense that you're giving a lot of logical reasons. They don't want logical reasons, and you can have the most logical reasons in the world and they'll still deny them, spin it around, and make you look like what you did was awful. So save yourself the emotional pain and the time of trying to get through to them. Don't allow yourself to be dragged in, okay? Saying less is actually more because you're able to stay in control. 3 leads me into 4, which is very similar. Observe without absorbing. Notice their techniques to try to abuse. Okay, now they're blame shifting. Now they're criticizing. Now he or she is doing the double bind technique. Or look at the words that they're saying. They're trying to erode my self-esteem. Observe what they're doing without absorbing it. If they're trying to make you feel bad, always recognize that you are in control of your feelings. And if they're trying to make you feel bad, they can only succeed if you allow it. I know it's hard. And when you're with somebody like that for a very long period of time, eventually it actually gets harder and harder, not easier and easier. You may be able to observe without absorbing better, but it affects you emotionally because it's not normal to have to be in a relationship with somebody that's trying to break you all the time and somebody that's raging to control your actions and your thoughts. And the last thing, the 5th thing that I wanted to mention is begin looking for ways that you can find yourself in a healthier position, in a healthier circumstance. It's true that maybe at the moment you cannot leave. Maybe you're underage, maybe you don't have a job, but circumstances change. Be aware and alert for them because sometimes they can happen without us realizing it. I heard an illustration once how an elephant at a zoo will have the ball and chain around their ankle. Well, an elephant, if you look at that ball and chain, an elephant can move that with no problem. So why doesn't it? The reason is because when it was a baby, that ball and chain, the elephant could not move, and it tried and tried and tried until eventually its mind accepted the fact that I cannot move when I have this ball and chain around me. And so as the elephant grew bigger, its circumstances changed, but its mentality didn't. So don't be like the elephant. Your circumstances can change. Be alert to them. Always be looking for ways and things you can do to help you to find yourself in a healthier circumstance, because living with somebody that is narcissistic and that rages the way they do is not healthy and will affect you emotionally in the long run.